Good morning, second graders. Today we're going to learn about fractions. So today we're going to be going over our whole fractions, two fractions that are related to the number 2, 3, and 4. So, do we think that fractions are like a thing we don't see every day, or is it something we come across each day?
Each day.
That's right. So fractions are really important when we're cooking, when we're measuring things out, because when you cook, you don't want to put too much of one ingredient in or it's not going to taste very good, right? If we put too much salt into our cookies, they're going to be salty, they're not going to be yummy, right? So it's also very important when we share. When we're in class and we are sharing something, do we give, say, Connor more than we give to another student? No, right? We want to be fair. We want to give equal amounts. So that's what a fraction is, equal pieces that make up a whole. So, on your desk, you each have little fraction circles. So we're only going to be using the 2 thirds and fourths. So you can pop them out. It's easier to like flip them over and then pop them out. So with these pieces, each one makes a whole, right? The different colors equal one whole. So if you take out the orange pieces, we're going to, shift into yours. So you have, they might be different, but you're going to take out your pieces that are 2, that make up 1, and then there should be one that's 3 of the same color, and then there's another that is 4 of a color, and then your whole as well. So it's just one circle. Alright? So, what's something we notice about the different wholes that we have? They're all the same size. So does that mean the same size as a whole or the same size? If you notice, the pieces, if you stack them all together from one circle, they're all going to be the same exact size. So that goes back to sharing equally, right? And then what if I were to take like an orange and a yellow piece? Does that add up to a whole? No, right? So not just because they're the same color or say the same, say, what if this piece was orange, would that matter? Like, would that make this a whole at all? No, right? Because it still doesn't add up to one whole circle. So that's something we got to keep in mind, that not just because they're the same color, they're going to add up to a whole. So now we're going to go over proper and improper fractions. So we're going to have a deck of cards. Do we know what proper and improper fractions are? Do we have an idea? If not, that's fine. So an improper fraction is when we have, so relating back to our wholes, an improper fraction is when we have a numerator that is bigger than our denominator, right? So like if we had, I don't have tape, but if we had a 10 and an 8, what would that be? Would that be proper or improper? Okay. And then if we had a 6 and an 8, what would that be? Okay. So another thing when we're looking at fractions, this means that there's 6. Say we're thinking about like our circles, that means there's 8 total pieces and there's 6 present, right? So how many pieces would we need to get to our whole in this case? Correct. 2 more pieces. Okay. And then we also have a square. This one we only have 1. Oh, this one's a little messy. Okay, do we think it matters what the shape is, or is it still the same? Like, compare your circle to your entire circle to this entire square. We know it's a different shape, but does it represent the same whole? Yes, right? Okay, so it's kind of the same thing like when we have, say, your third circle, the one that's split into thirds. There's still 3 pieces of a rectangle, or of the square, right? So it still also adds up to a whole, just like your third circle adds up to a whole. And the same goes for the fourths and for the halves, right? Because it all adds up to a whole. Alright, now we're going to do some practice. So I'm going to draw some things up on the board, and I want you to tell me if the examples include either improper fractions or proper fractions, and then we'll go from there. So I'm going to draw them on the board. So this is a pizza, and we have pretend this is pepperoni. It's not a very good drawing. Alright, so with this one, can we tell that this pizza is missing? It's not a whole, right? Because not every piece is filled with pepperoni, so it's missing. So, is this at all an improper fraction, or is it a proper fraction? Proper, right? Because we don't have more pieces than are equal to a whole. We're missing pieces. And then, so what would the fraction be? If you could write on your paper, what would the fraction be for this pizza? So what did everyone say? 5/6. Good job. So now we're going to move on to a different shape. Does everyone know what a domino is? So a domino is just a game, but if you look at dominoes and flip them in different directions, they say different fractions, right? So in this domino, we have what do we have here? Do we have a proper or improper fraction? Improper. Why do we think it's improper? Can somebody tell me?
There's more on the top than the bottom.
Right, so there's more pieces than makes a whole. Because in this case, a whole would be if we had one dot up here and one dot down here, right? That's our whole. So then what is this improper fraction? Can we write that down on our sheet? Okay, so now we'll move on. And what did everyone say for that one? 6/1. And we can see that right here, right? It's kind of like saying we have 6 dots over 1 dot. All right, and so for this next one is so this represents our whole, right? So if we compare it to this other circle, can we tell what fraction we have here if this is our whole? So how many pieces are in this one? We have 1, 2, 3 pieces, 4, 5 pieces, right? So then if we count out these pieces, how many are here? 3, right? 1, 2, 3. How many pieces of a whole do we have in this case? 3/5, right? We have 3 pieces of our 5 that make a whole. So that's our 3/5. All right. So today we learned about fractions. So they're numbers that represent equal parts of a whole, right? What is something each of us learned today? Do we want to share something we learned? We want to start over here.
Just because they're different shapes, if you have all the parts, they can still be one whole, even if it's a square or a circle.
Correct. What did you learn today?
I learned that this is half of a whole, and this is a third of a whole, and a fourth of a whole.
Correct.
I learned that an improper fraction is the number that is currently in the denominator.
Correct.
And then just regular fractions, maybe proper fraction, is the smaller number is on top and the larger number is on the bottom, or the whole is on the bottom.
Correct. That is all something we learned today. So we also learned about how fractions occur in our everyday lives. For example, when we're sharing cake, when we're sharing pizza, sharing with friends, or when we're cooking, that's really, really important, right? So we don't want to mess our food up. We want it to be nice and yummy. All right. Good job, class.